A music label once told Kwesi Arthur that if he wanted to use a photo of himself, his own face, he would have to pay $150,000, and that was just the beginning, because by the time you finish this video, you'll realize what nearly happened to one of Ghana's greatest rappers wasn't just a contract dispute, it was a calculated attempt to silence him permanently. Before we get into the chaos, you need to understand what was at stake, because this story only hits differently when you know who Kwesi Arthur really is. Born Emmanuel Kwesi Danso Arthur Jr. in Tema, Ghana, this man didn't just come up, he arrived. In 2017, he dropped a song called Grind Day. It blew up so fast that Sarkodie, arguably Ghana's biggest rapper ever, jumped on the remix. That doesn't happen to just anyone. By the time he released his debut album, Son of Jacob, in 2022, Kwesi Arthur wasn't just a local name, he was a movement, the type of artist that makes you proud to be Ghanaian. But here's what I want you to hold in your mind. Why did it take him 5 years between his breakthrough and his debut album? Because the answer to that question is exactly what this story is about. In 2017, the same year Grind Day was breaking the internet, Kwesi Arthur signed with Ground Up Chale, the collective run by music executive Glenn Boateng. On paper, it made perfect sense. Ground Up was hot, the energy was right. And when you're a young artist from Tema watching your music take off, you sign on the dotted line. You trust the people in your corner. What Kwesi Arthur says he didn't fully understand at the time, that contract would bind him for 4 years, and then he'd renew it for 2 more years. 6 years total. 6 years where, according to Kwesi Arthur himself, he did not make a single dime from his own music. Let me say that again. Not a single dime. Now, Ground Up's lawyer has a completely different version of events, and when we get to what he actually revealed about the numbers, your jaw is going to drop, because the truth might be more complicated than either side is telling you. For years, Kwesi Arthur stayed quiet. He kept his pain private, kept it professional until January 21st, 2026. On that day, he posted a statement that shook the entire Ghanaian entertainment industry. He said Ground Up Chale was demanding $150,000, 150,000 US dollars, just for him to use images of himself in a new independent project. They weren't just demanding money. Ground Up was claiming ownership of his image, his music, and everything creative attached to him from 2016 to that very day. And then he dropped the most chilling line of the entire post. If anything happens to me, Glenn Boateng and all team members of Ground Up Chale are responsible. An award-winning Ghanaian rapper was essentially saying, I fear for my safety, and he went public, not because he wanted drama. He said he did it for one reason only, to protect himself and his family. This wasn't just a music beef. This man was scared. Now, before I show you how Ground Up fired back, and trust me, their response changed everything. If this video is hitting, like the video and drop a comment. Here's where this story gets complicated, because Ground Up Chale didn't stay silent. Their lawyer, Jonathan K. Amable, went on Joy FM and started reading from email correspondence between the two parties, and what he revealed stopped a lot of people mid-sentence.
Kwesi had gone behind Ground Up Chale to the distributor to collect $118,000.
He claimed that Kwesi Arthur had received royalties. In fact, he quoted a specific email where Glenn Boateng outlined payments made to Kwesi, and the number mentioned £91,370 in royalty disbursements. That's not nothing, but it gets even more layered. The lawyer also alleged that Kwesi Arthur had received $118,712 from a music distribution company called Platoon, specifically for the Son of Jacob album, and he allegedly pocketed that money without paying Ground Up Chale their share. So now you have two completely opposite stories. One man says he made nothing. The other side says he made over $100,000 and didn't share it. Someone is lying, and we'll talk about who the courts may side with. But first, the lawsuit. Because what Ground Up did next escalated this from a Twitter fight into something that could define the next decade of Ghanaian music law. On January 27, 2026, Ground Up Chale and Glenn Boateng filed a lawsuit at the High Court in Accra. They called Kwesi Arthur's social media posts libelous and defamatory. They demanded damages exceeding 10 million cedis. removal of all the posts, a court injunction over 10 million cedis for telling his own story. Now here's what makes this bigger than Kwesi Arthur versus Ground Up Chale. This case is a mirror of exactly what's wrong with how record labels operate in Africa. Artists are signing contracts they don't fully understand, built by people who understand them very well. And Kwesi Arthur knew that, because even in the middle of his breakdown post, he added this. He said the whole experience had affected his well-being and mental health greatly. This wasn't just about money. This was about years of silence, years of watching someone else profit from your art, and finally reaching a point where staying quiet felt more dangerous than speaking up. And look, whether the courts side with Kwesi Arthur or Ground Up Chale, there's a lesson here that every upcoming artist in Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and across Africa needs to hear. Contracts are not handshakes, hype is not protection, and the label that celebrates you on the way up can be the same one that traps you on the way down. Black Sherif is going through a similar thing with Empire Records right now. Kwesi Arthur with Ground Up. These are not isolated incidents. This is a pattern. And until artists start walking into rooms with lawyers before they walk in with dreams, this cycle will not break. Kwesi Arthur survived. He's still here. He's still creating. But the years he lost, the music he couldn't release, the peace of mind he sacrificed, that's time you can never get back. So the next time you hear a song and you wonder why it took your favorite artist years to drop new music, remember this story, because sometimes the biggest obstacle between an artist and their art isn't talent, it isn't work ethic, it's a contract they signed at their most vulnerable moment. Kwesi Arthur called it out, and in doing so, he may have just saved the next generation of Ghanaian artists from making the same mistake. If you learned something from this video, share it with one person who wants to be in the music industry, because the information in this video is worth more than any music business class. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Fame Africa.